listening to our podcast, the Slowpoke Travel podcast. We hope you enjoy our podcast. The podcast starts right now. Slowpoke Travel podcast with Buck and Camera Girl. Ta-da! Welcome to the Slowpoke Travel podcast. I'm Buck and Camera Girl is on the camera. And we're going to do a recipe today, although it's a podcast. So this is a visual. So I am going to make some cookies. So you could make some delicious cookies. Maybe if I make delicious cookies today. But the main thing that we're doing is a podcast about travel. Or maybe about getting old, or maybe about Mexico, or maybe about house sitting. I'm so scattershot with these things, but hopefully there'll be some information that you can use in here. Some of the information that we want to impart is that we're going to Mexico in a few weeks. And we'll be there for a while, hopefully, because we've lined up a couple of house sits. And we were going anyway. We were making plans to go to Mexico when these house sits came up. Because we were waiting for a house sit to start. We were keeping our eyes open for house sits all winter long. But everything was cold. And we don't want to go anywhere where it's cold. My knees, my joints, my body in general is not interested in cold weather. I used to live in the snow. I used to live in a snowmobile resort in Wyoming. I used to shovel snow. I used to watch snowmobiles go by outside my cabin, but they were much louder than that. And I just watched them because I got on a snowmobile maybe 5 times over the course of 5 or 6 winters that I spent in Wyoming. Because every time I got on a snowmobile, I crashed. And then even though I'm not very smart, I was smart enough to realize that I wasn't smart enough to ride a snowmobile and survive. But anyway.
So Mexico's going to be a little cold, but that's okay because we're going to be in the mountains.
It is going to be a little bit cool in Mexico because we're going to be at, we like the mountains in Mexico. We spent time in Guadalajara, Guanajuato, where else? Morelia. You know, everything was like 5,000 plus feet in elevation. So even though we were in Mexico, you know, it is winter time, you know, in North America. And it's over 5,000 feet, but it'll be cool. But there isn't going to be any snow. I'll be shocked, but it will be cold. Because in Mexico, they don't have a lot of, at least where we stay, they don't have a lot of AC and central heating and stuff like that. So maybe there will be a space heater.
There'll be blankets at night, but okay, old man.
I know.
You're 3 minutes in. What are you going to talk about?
Well, I mean, this is it. This is what I'm talking about. But the thing is, I was hoping that by cooking, I could talk and cook. But I'm having a hard time thinking. I tell you what, I don't think I've ever had COVID. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've never had COVID. You know, don't you think I would notice? But somehow or another, I still have the brain fog.
Well, let me explain something. Maybe it'll help you. You have started and you have told me and Mom that you are making pecan sandies? You are making them, buddy.
I'm making pecan cookies today. And they're kind of like pecan sandies. And I've been making these a lot lately. Oh, I've been making these. How many? I've made half a dozen batches of these.
Don't say. Super
simple. It's going to be just flour, eggs.
Sugar.
Flour. No eggs. Flour, butter, sugar. That's it, really. I mean, a couple little other things in the pecans. We got
salt, pecans.
Salt, vanilla.
And vanilla.
But it's key that you put your butter out first. I got a stick of butter here that I have at room temperature. And this is a stick. It's half a cup of butter. It is a stick of butter. Sometimes when you buy butter now, they've got it in the little half stick sizes. So if you just pull out, you know, a quarter of a cup, that's not going to do it. You want a half a cup, a big old-fashioned stick of butter, and you want to have that at room temperature because we're going to whip it up. In fact, that's the first thing we're going to do. My oven is preheated at 350, so it'll be ready to go when I got the cookies ready to go. But here's my butter, all nice and soft. And before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and give this a stir.
Oh, you're going to do this by hand. No machinery.
I avoid machines if I can. I don't like using appliances and stuff because we travel a lot. Sometimes you don't have appliances.
Okay. Get back to it,
buddy. One more
buddy.
thing to clean up.
I'm sorry I interrupted you. Let's go.
That's okay. Hopefully this isn't going to be too noisy. But I'm just going ahead and mixing up my butter. Giving it a little whippy whip. Gosh, this isn't going to work. I can't do a podcast about travel and cooking all together.
I tell you what, we're going to pause it. You're going to finish getting those cookies ready.
No. I'm gonna do this while I'm doing it. Maybe I'll talk mostly about cookies because cookies are very important for travel too. Because cookies are energy, and energy is movement. It's math. There's like algebra, and you can figure it out. But you need cookies.
That's called excuses
to propel yourself into the future.
No, you don't.
So we got our butter, and I'm going to add some sugar to it.
Oh, you're sweet enough.
And I'll put the thing in the description.
The recipe.
I'll have the recipe or I'll have a link to the recipe over on our channel, and that way you can look at it fully and see what we're dealing with here. But man, these cookies are so simple, and I make a bunch of kind of cookies, and I really like making kind of shortbready type cookies. But when you make cookies, you can really adjust the ingredients. You know, a little bit more flour, a little less butter, a little more sugar, a little less sugar. I mean, basically you're going to end up with some sort of floury, buttery, sugary thing to eat. And, you know, they can be dense or less dense. You know, sometimes you can throw an egg in there and give them a little bit of a lift. So it's kind of hard to go wrong if you're even just close.
Especially when you just want a vehicle for drinking coffee.
Yeah, exactly. We just want something to go in our coffee. But I got my butter whipped up there a little bit, and I'm going to throw in 1/3 cup of sugar. And I'll go ahead and give it a stir now and mix this together. And it's going to end up being pretty dense when it's all said and done.
Should I make an analogy?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hear what you got.
Never mind.
Are you going to compare it to my head somehow? I tell you what. Kimberly and I have I would say a very successful relationship. And I would say it's mostly because
she does what I tell her to. Go ahead. Say it.
It's mostly because I'm in the kitchen all the time making cookies and whatnot.
Oh, you do a lot of cooking. We do. Oh, that is fabulous.
So if you're having a hard time in life with relationships, then you just need to get you some kitchen stuff and start cooking and feeding somebody.
And cleaning up. See, that's the other thing. You get to clean it up before we get to it.
Yeah, I like to clean up because it's kind of therapy. But the thing is, a lot of times relationships fall apart because, you know, you have trouble making that connection. You have trouble conversing, talking to each other, you know, propelling that relation forward into the future with your personalities meshing together. So a lot of times if you're having trouble meshing or you're not communicating well with your partner, you just got to have something to put in their mouth. And
I'm not. Okay.
And then that's it. You know, because you're not going to argue or fight if the other person is just chewing all the time.
You're telling me I'm not going to talk if you have something in your mouth? Hello, apparently we haven't met.
No, my goal is to keep things in your mouth.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But that's it. That's just relationship advice. We got everything on this podcast today. But I went ahead and I mixed up my sugar and my butter, and now I'm going to throw in a little bit of salt. And Camera Girl's got us on
and vanilla.
The pink salt. What is it about the pink salt? You said we're not allowed to use the white salt anymore.
I didn't say we're not allowed. I said the white salt does not include any electrolytes that help your body. Basically, white salt is an ultra-processed food.
Okay.
We would rather have pink salt.
That's it.
That has more nutrients.
That's right, because we're on a healthy
of course,
kick.
While we make cookies.
I don't know. Is it healthy talking about eating salt?
Yes.
Yeah, because we want to be healthy because we're eating salt. Oh, we might have to do something about this depending on what they say. But anyway, if you want to...
It's probably
that
spam.
phone makes so much noise, yeah. But if you want to eat healthy, then put pink salt in your cookie recipe.
No.
There's something really wrong here.
No.
But anyway, you can put just a pinch. Now this here is a teaspoon. I'm not going to use a full teaspoon.
Gonna say.
I'm just going to put this much in. Just put a pinch.
That's a little more than
just a wee little bit of salt.
Okay.
And then we're going to do the same with vanilla. And I'm on the fence with the vanilla.
Oh, don't be on the fence. Add the vanilla.
Camera Girl says we need vanilla. You know, when I make cookies, sometimes I put vanilla in, sometimes I don't. And I never miss it.
Oh.
You know, but I'm going to put in a teaspoon of vanilla.
Yay.
To go with my cookies.
You do love me.
I do. Mucho Machu Picchu. Let's see. So let me go ahead and mix this up here. And now the only thing we got to put in here is our flour. And look at this. Look at this here. I got these little bags of flour. How come I got 3 open bags of flour?
Because you and Mom like to put it in different places in the freezer so we don't find it. So I gather them up and organize them.
I'm going to try to get rid of some of these right here. But I can get rid of my whisk now and move to a spoon, I think.
Yeah, you don't want to have a spatula around Chef Buck. Even if he's making curry or whatever, he's going to use that spatula. So if you have a special bakery spatula,
what are you talking
hide
about?
it. Hide it.
Okay, maybe I won't be able to use all this here because I'm going to put in 1 cup of flour, and that's pretty close right there.
You didn't even spoon. I tell you what, all the things Mom told me you had to do in baking, you made her out to be a liar. You made my mama a liar.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I'm not a great baker. I mean, baking isn't what I do.
These and those chewy bars you make are addictive.
The only time I ever baked when I was cooking professionally, the only thing I ever really baked is biscuits when I was working at the bed and breakfast.
I love you even more if it's possible.
Yeah. Well, these aren't biscuits. Get down here and let's see.
You told me not to get
Yeah. You're right. I'm
all right,
go
ahead.
This is more like a podcast.
All right.
So if you're not seeing the visual of this, if you're just hearing it, then this is the sound of a cup of flour going in my mixture.
Without a spoon. He just plopped it all in there.
I just plopped it in here. Now I'm just going to kind of fold it around and get it mixed as best I can. And it's going to really be kind of dry. You know, like with biscuits, when I make my biscuit recipe, you don't want to handle it too much. But with these, you really kind of have to handle it a lot because it's going to end up...
manhandle it.
Okay, this is a family podcast. Because I'm going to end up having to press them together to form the cookies. But I got it stirred in. It's sort of like into little clumpy clumps. And once it gets to this stage right here, I'm going to add my pecans.
Yeah, it's bigger than pea level. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot. This is a lot of pecans right here. I just took whole pecans and I broke them up. And then I toasted them. I had to toast some more today because I had a lot of them toasted for a recipe. For a cookie recipe, but Camera Girl ate them, so I had to toast some more. So now I toasted plenty of them. So now you'll have something to snack on here. And these
you do love
are going
me and
into
Mom.
my mixture.
Oh, lots of nuts. Yes.
And then I'm just going to fold this in here. And look at this here. This really looks like it's not going to be a dough. But we've got a lot of butter in here.
Yeah.
I mean, really, half of this mixture is butter. So
Did I say I love you?
Yeah, I don't know if the pink salt is really going to be making that big of a difference.
It doesn't.
For us health-wise when we're looking at a whole stick of butter
right.
here for these cookies. And this is going to make probably, I don't know, 11 or 12 or 13 cookies, depending on the size I make them. Now, I've been making double batches of these cookies a lot.
Yes.
But I'm trying to slow us down, so I won't make a big batch this time.
But it is nice you can manhandle these. Usually, you're right with bacon. It's like, no, don't overhandle.
Well, these are going to be like pecan sandies.
Well,
you know, these are shortbread cookies. So they're very dense. So, you know, we're not trying to get any kind of fluffiness or lift. They're not like biscuits at all. So you can't overhandle them. I mean, they're going to be kind of heavy, dense cookies, which is what I'm looking for. Now, I got a baking sheet here. And I got a piece of parchment paper, and I've been using this parchment paper, I mean, the whole time I've been making cookies this month. So I think this is probably my 8th or 9th time using this one piece of parchment paper.
Okay, we get it. You're thrifty. Move on.
Well, the thing is, I used to hate using parchment paper because it's not cheap. You know, you can spend a lot of money on parchment paper, but I used to use a piece of parchment paper and then throw it away. But now I've learned I don't have to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take my cookie dough here, which really doesn't look like cookie dough yet. But I'm going to smash it together, and it will stick together very easily. Look at that. See? You just got to do it with your hand. Now I'm going to try to parcel it out into some shapes so that I can sort of make the cookie sizes the same. And it's sticking a little bit to my hand, but not too bad. So I don't have to put any flour on my hand, or I don't have to work this on a floured surface or anything like that. And I just kind of smash it together. Boom, boom, boom. And now I'm going to break it in half. And so that tells me if I can get a dozen cookies out of here, if I break this in half, then I should be able to get 6 cookies out of this one little piece here.
Sweet and smart.
Yeah.
You're the whole package.
Yeah. So then if I break this, you need to make that sound more sincere. So now if I break each one of these apart, then I know that I should be able to get maybe 3 cookies out of each one of these. So let me do that there. And then that way I sort of have a good starting point. So I'm not going to end up making
some that are ginormous and some that are
start
tiny.
making my cookies, and then all of a sudden I just got 10 cookies. And it'd be fine if I did. I mean, I can make whatever size cookies I want. But, you know, we're trying to regulate ourselves a little bit. So there's 1, 2, 3. So I got 3 cookies here. This one's a little bit bigger, so I'll snatch some off of there. And now I'm going to roll it into a ball. And I'm going to smash it into a disc. And then I'm going to round it into a wheel like this. Because I've noticed that if I make my cookies, if I just smash my cookies out like this here, then the edges are thinner and they don't cook as evenly. So I like to turn it into a wheel. Just like this. And then I'll end up with a cookie about that thick. But I've made them thicker than this. And I've made them thinner than this. It doesn't really matter. You can adjust your cooking time a little bit if they really get way too big or way too small. But I like having them rounded on the edges so they're not too thin, so the edges don't cook too fast. So there you go. So that's kind of all you need to do for this cookie recipe. Now we're just going to shape them out, and then we're going to bake them.
So now you can talk more about travel.
Exactly. Now I don't have to think too much. So now I can talk about, focus more on Slowpoke Traveling, which is what the whole point of this was. And then it turned into something that might be better suited for our cooking channel. But I'm going to put this up on the travel channel because I'm excited about traveling again. We did our Ecuador trip last year, and I put up so many videos about Ecuador. I think we ended up putting up between 30 and 40 videos, and I loved it.
You did a great job.
Yeah, and I went over there with all of our equipment. You know, I had our GoPros, and I had our fancy mics, and I had all this stuff, and then I ended up making a lot of videos just with this phone right here because I just did it kind of naturally while we were out and about. And I sort of think, you know, when we're in Mexico, I'll do that again too. And I'm sort of, you know, hoping to do more podcasty type things because I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts constantly. I've always got something in my ear. I always joke around that I'm like a, what is that? An android? Part man, part machine, because I've always got something electronic plugged into my body. We're almost like androids nowadays. What is that you were reading today about? Apple's got the new VR thing that's going to be like $3,500 or something. My nephew's got one of those. What does he have?
Yeah, but his is more for gaming, and you can game with other people. This is supposed to be you can do your computer work, you can do a variety of things, but it's just for one person. So it's sort of a different application. It's supposed to be very heavy. But...
I'm excited about
VR stuff. You know, for exercise, because playing ping pong, I mean, I really got some good exercise playing ping pong on that VR headset, because I don't know, I don't move around a lot. I mean, I walk, but walking doesn't get my heart going. And we think a lot about trying to be healthy, especially now that we're getting a little older and we want to continue traveling into the future. And you really we got to put a little bit of work into that.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. You know, we'll be going to probably around between 5,000 and 6,000 feet. I think it's a little over 6,000 feet where we're going to be in Mexico. And in Ecuador, we were a little over 8,000 feet. And that's a different toll on your body, because right now we're in Florida, so we're going to be going to sea level to, you know, really about 1,000 feet higher than Denver. You know, do we have to be in shape for that? We're going to have to be able to walk around, you know, at a higher elevation. So, yeah. So I think having salt in these cookies is really going to be the thing that pushes us into the realm of better health.
Well, I'm glad we're both excited. I mean, Mexico is a very large place. We're going somewhere we haven't been before. But initially I was sort of like, oh, because, you know, we have lots of places around the world we haven't been yet, but I'm excited. It's a new place. It's still going to have different history, of course, different people to meet. The food, we really enjoyed the food last time we were in Mexico. The 5 places we were.
Yeah.
So,
where were we at? We were in Puerto Vallarta, Guadalajara, Morelia, Ajijic, and then Guanajuato. And this time we're going to be flying into Querétaro.
Yeah.
Querétaro, and then going to San Miguel de Allende, which we didn't plan on doing. We were actually booking stuff for Guadalajara and maybe Ajijic before. But we ended up booking that other stuff because we are going on a couple of house sits.
And Airbnbs, yeah, a mixture.
Yeah. But mainly house sits, you know. So a lot of times when we do our trips, we build it around house sits. And that happens really if we're not trying. Because I was trying to get us some house sits. I was trying to...
Yeah, I think you were trying too hard. You know, sometimes it's like a watch pot never boils.
Yeah.
I think you were putting a lot of pressure on the plans. It was like, ooh.
It's hard to find house sits that will match what you want to do. It's best to just flow with the house sits. And I always say that. I mean, if the more flexibility you have, the more flexible you can be, then the more successful you will be at house sitting. Because when I try to mold house sits to some plan that I have in my head about going somewhere, it just never works out. But the moment that you stop trying to find a house sit, the moment that you stop thinking about it, then you become more open to possibilities.
I think that's with a lot of things. Sometimes if you want something so badly and you've done everything you can to move in that direction, you got to distract yourself.
Yeah. We, you know, like for a couple of months, you know, we were, you know, just down here visiting family and everything. And I've like got all of my parameters set on the Trusted House Sitters app, you know, and I'm waiting for these house sits, you know, that I want to happen according to the parameters that I have set. And, you know, they keep coming up and they just don't quite work out. They just don't quite fit, you know, what we want to do.
Well, you just don't get a vibe. That's the other thing is, yeah.
Yeah. You know, because it's too cold. The price doesn't work out logistically with the flights and, you know, it just doesn't make sense for whatever reason. But the moment that I said, you know, let's just make our own plans. I'm just tired of fooling with this here. We'll just book our own plans. And then we'll just figure it out. And the moment I did that, you know, we started planning for Mexico, and then I sit down to start figuring out places we can go and actual practical booking plans. Then bloop, bloop, you know, a couple of house sits appear, and then we just build our plans around that. So I wasn't listening to my own advice when I was trying to figure out our travel plans before that.
No, you were getting uptight.
Yeah, because you can't make it work with the house sitting because You just have to wait and see what's there and then build your plans around that. And now we are, and hopefully it'll work out, because we actually had our first house sit not work out this past winter, because I've said it before in our other house sitting videos. You know, house sitting is great because it's a grab bag and you don't know what's going to happen. And so that's very exciting, and you save a lot of money doing it, but there's more moving parts because you're not only having your own travel plans that you're making, but your plans are also reliant on somebody else's plans. So we had a kind of a month-long house sit in Florida, a repeat house sit that we've done a number of times and we really like, and we've actually become friends with these people. And we see them even when we're not house sitting for them. But, you know, they had a family emergency which required them to cancel their plans. And so the house sit was canceled. So, you know, that was our first time, you know, house sitting that a house sit has fallen through for us. But it can happen anytime.
That's not the first time.
Yeah,
COVID, there was Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and Mexico.
Yeah, I don't really count that though. Yeah, the same thing happened was, we had 2 house sits booked in what was that, 2020?
I can't remember now.
Yeah,
but
we had those booked for the summer of 2020. It was right when COVID started, but when COVID started, those house sits got canceled too. But that wasn't our house sit got canceled because their plans got canceled. Our house sit got canceled because everybody's plans got canceled.
Okay, my love, get them in the oven.
Okay,
you can.
So
do
there
it
is. I took a long time to do that, and look at that. Even with running on autopilot, I came out with 12 cookies, which is about what this recipe makes if you want pecan sandies.
They're not quite as short as pecan sandies, but they are just so good. And they don't have as many ingredients because they don't have preservatives. They don't have all kind of stuff.
I think these are just like pecan sandies.
No, you're not an aficionado.
Except for they're better.
Better.
I really do. Now my oven is. Oh, did I turn the oven off? When did I turn the oven off? I'm a dingbat. But anyway.
Well, sometimes you don't like the humming. You might have just automatically done it.
Yeah. Well, I got to wait for it to get up to 350. Come over here so we can get the sweet sounds of...
oh, why?
Of my hands being washed. Because my hands are about as buttery as they can get right now.
That's
what are you
funny.
looking at?
There's socks.
Yeah, I was going to close that door, but we got all kinds of underwear hanging on the other side of that door. And we don't need that. So I'm going to throw these here in the oven for 20 minutes at 350. And when I pull them out, they will be perfecto.
Yeah, they'll look like they're not cooked yet.
Yeah, they'll be cooked on the bottom, but they won't be that brown on the top. But right. if you let it go any further than 20 minutes, then I think they're overdone. I mean, when we first started making videos in like 2009, I think I was creeping up around 250 pounds. And I haven't been that in a long time.
Well, maybe for the Patreon folks, you'll think through what you might want to say so that it can be a more succinct time.
Yeah. No, there's no succinct. So I'm going to put my cookies in. I just heard this bing. It's at 350 degrees. And I'm going to cook it for 20 minutes.
There you go.
Let me do my timer. And, you know, it might vary by your oven. But 20 minutes at 350 has been working really well in this particular oven for this particular batch of cookies at that amount and 12 cookies. And at 20 minutes, they'll be nice and kind of a little dark on the bottom of the cookie, but they won't look like they are done on top. But I have cooked them longer. I've cooked them for about 25 minutes to start getting a little brown on top of the cookie and looking more delicious. But then it doesn't taste as good.
The other nice thing about these is you can freeze them.
Oh, yeah, and that's what we do. Once we get them out, we let them cool down, and then we put them in a bag and put them in the freezer. And then when we want a cookie, we take it out of the freezer and let it thaw out. Because if we just have them
You let it thaw out. Me and Mom just eat them out of the freezer.
Yeah. We don't have to let them thaw out completely. But if we just have a dozen freshly baked cookies and leave them out all day, then they'll be gone that day.
Shh, don't tell our secrets.
And we can't do that because...
Don't tell our vices.
I got a problem with baked goods and all that whatnot.
And chocolate.
When we got back from Ecuador, and I felt like I was in pretty good shape. In Ecuador, we did tons of walking, and we ate not the greatest stuff. It was plantanos all the time, morning, noon, and night. We were eating plantains, which is very starchy. We were going to bakeries. We were going to, it didn't matter where we went, bakery or any place. We would still end up getting baked goods. What was I eating every day? Carrot cake, and then I would go to,
oh Lord,
what was the one place I would go and I'd get the peca? What did I get there? The orejas?
Orejas? I think so.
Yeah,
Yes.
So
it looked like little
tons of
elephant
baked
ears.
goods, but we were very active. We were walking around, and I felt like I was in pretty good shape when we got back. And then we had what did we do? A 2-month house sit in Savannah.
Yes.
And I didn't put up any travel stuff in Savannah. I really didn't love Savannah because it was so. What did it do?
It's maximized, so we have to stop it and restart.
Alrighty.
Olé.
What was I saying? Oh, in Savannah, I just didn't love it. I liked the city, just like I liked New Orleans, but New Orleans didn't mesh for us anymore when we went because it's so expensive. And coming from Ecuador and going to Savannah, ugh. We could spend, just going out for a cup of coffee and whatever in the morning in Savannah, we would spend as much money as we would spend all day in Ecuador. To go do hardly anything. Just like a little coffee shop with a couple of rinky-dink pastries. It'd be between $20 and $30. And that would be kind of just a regular full day in Ecuador. And what we got in Savannah, I wasn't happy with. I just thought everything was better in Ecuador because not just because it's inexpensive. Mm-hmm. Not just because of that. Mm-hmm. Really? Think about the places that we really loved in Ecuador, in Cuenca.
There was some really flavorful foods. I'm not going to disagree with you.
You'd go and you'd get a cup like this here. This is what you get. You sit in a restaurant in Cuenca and they bring you a cup like this here and they pour your coffee and you're just enjoying yourself and you feel like a sophisticated person. You feel like you're in Europe or something like that.
You don't like paper cups.
This is what you get when you go somewhere here. Some surly teenager will give you this paper cup.
Right.
And then next, whatever, and then you got to do your credit card thing. And then there's a thing to put 22 or 25% tip for probably not great coffee in a paper cup. The
coffee was good, and we liked some of the food. But yes, all right.
I sound like
Is this about travel?
I sound like some grandpa now. Yeah, this is definitely about travel because travel is all about going where the cups are good.
Where you enjoy the food experience.
Yeah.
All right.
And Mexico is probably, hasn't that been the place that we got the best food?
It's not a matter of the best food. We didn't have to search. You can find great food anywhere. But we could enjoy...
True, because we found it in Canada. And it wasn't easy, but we found it.
All right. It depends on where you are and how much you're willing to spend. But I will agree with you in Mexico.
How much you're willing to spend.
And in Mexico, we even tried more street vendors than we generally do. Not that we never do it, but everything was so good. And we did come back going, now we understand. When people say they've had Mexican food, if you've had it in a different country, it is not necessarily the same because, the flavors were so different and so
having
great.
Food here in the U.S. in a Mexican restaurant is nothing like eating
never.
native food in Mexico.
But you're right. In a lot of places, you go somewhere else and cook your food, you got to make sure people are going to eat it. So a lot of times we find, even if we find a place that we visited and it's flavorful, we come back here and it's like they have to blend it down so that more people want it.
Yeah, it's just more flavorful. It's more interesting. I think Mexico has been our favorite place to go. And I was not expecting to enjoy the food in Ecuador because the food in Chile didn't compare very well to the food in Mexico.
Again, we were just in Santiago and we did find some great food.
Yeah, but just, I need to temper my expectations because I'm getting a little too high on the idea of eating again in Mexico. And the key to happiness is low expectations.
Oh, that...
I mean, Camera Girl is not a fan of that philosophy, but it's true in almost anything. If you're going expecting to love it, if you're expecting to be wowed, if you're expecting the best, if you're anticipating a phenomenal experience, if you go in with those expectations, more likely than not, you're going to be disappointed. Whether you're traveling to a country, going to a restaurant, watching a movie, whatever it is, you need to try to be neutral or even have lowered expectations. So maybe I need to draw back a little bit. But I'm just excited to be getting ready to go back on the road again. And that's why we're eating these cookies every day. So we'll have the power to blast off into the future with pecan power, butter pecan sandy powers.
We could have just eaten the pecans and not eaten the
well,
cookies.
That's what these are
or
for.
Or pecans.
This is what these are for you. But then again, if you eat 3/4 of these, I'll have enough left for another batch. But I've been making double batches of cookies, which is the exact same recipe that I did here. I just doubled it and made it exactly the same, and then I end up with twice as many cookies. And I did that for a little bit, but now I've gone back to just making one batch at a time to try and slow us down.
Slow
we'll
it
see
down.
how that works.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But you were saying that depending on how much you want to spend will determine the quality of the food that you get. And I don't think that's true. Because our favorite place to eat, really one of my favorite places to eat in Cuenca was the least expensive place. And one of our favorite places to eat in Mexico was one of the least expensive places. Remember when we were in Guadalajara, that place around the corner, Danny's Asada or whatever, what it was called?
Mm-hmm.
And we'd go in there and we'd get like tacos or whatever the heck they had and the bottle of pop. And that was one of the cheapest places. And it was so flavorful. We never had a bad meal in there. It was kind of pop. It was like grape soda, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember what the soda was. But you're right. The stuff, the soups and the meat, it had cooked slow and for a long time. And, it was so flavorful. And
we didn't eat super healthy. And we didn't eat super healthy in Ecuador.
You
but
say
I felt
that,
like
but
we
you
ended
didn't,
up being healthier.
But you didn't have as much just bready bread. That was the other thing in Chile.
In Mexico?
Yeah.
Chilaquiles. How many
you
starches
did have a lot.
have?
Okay, you had a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to chilaquiles.
You had mentioned it, even in your sleep.
Yeah. I'll put a link somewhere down below if you don't know what chilaquiles is. I made a cooking video about it. And it's basically corn tortillas for breakfast. It's like Doritos for breakfast.
But better.
If you do it right. But,
what about the mole?
Oh, yeah, mole. We just watched a Chopped episode where a lady was making kind of a faux mole, she called it. I haven't made mole in a while.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting some real moles again. But man, I've been enjoying watching Chopped. We did an episode. Remember we did Slopped?
You were so good with that. That does not appeal to me at all, but you did a great job.
I tell you, I mean, we haven't watched Chopped for a while, but I was really enjoying watching it the last couple of days. Man, I would love to go on that show and do that, but I don't think I could. We watched an episode yesterday and somebody was on there and their hands were shaking like this here while they were trying to do the stuff in front of the cameras, on the Chopped set. And I think that's exactly how I would be. Because, I mean, my goal, if I went on Chopped, it wouldn't even be to win. My goal would be to try just not to have a heart attack.
All right.
I don't know how anybody could do that.
No, I think the real reason you said yesterday, because you couldn't take it that somebody was filming you and you couldn't edit. It'd be somebody else doing the editing.
I can't imagine not having control of the edit. I remember when we visited Wild Bill 1911 A1 in Washington, D.C. many, many years ago. And we made a couple of cooking videos while we were there with him. But he also made a video when we were cooking, and that was his video.
Right.
And I was so uncomfortable being videoed myself and then not having the raw material to edit, because I feel like the editing is where whatever story you want to tell, whatever piece of video that you want to make is made in the edit. So you can take just any odds and ends and create a video.
You can create a different mood, a different story from the same footage.
Exactly,
sure.
Because sometimes we'll have footage that is just terrible, and I'll make something that I at least think isn't terrible. Even if it's just the worst footage ever. You can do something with it. And so also if you have, footage that works, if you don't put it together right, it can be very long and boring. Speaking of long and boring.
I want to go back to, why don't you apply to be on Chopped?
I don't know how you would do that.
Oh, I'm sure there's a way to apply.
I want us to do some more Slopped. We did that Slopped video, but it was a full day affair for us to make that video.
Of course it was.
Because for each section, what do? You do like the first appetizer section for 20 minutes, and then an entree section for a half
30.
hour. And then the dessert section, is that a half hour too?
I think they give you, 30 minutes. But so I research and I get you your mystery ingredients. I just was so impressed because I
feel like I didn't do a good job, but
you kept your humor.
Fun. It was a lot of fun, but it was such a mess. So each little section, like you would film like the 20-minute appetizer section, but just to get things ready took a little while, and then we would shoot the actual me preparing it for the 20 minutes, and then we would shoot the eating thing, and then we would clean up. So each section, each little segment that we had to film probably took 2+ hours.
But not just that. You know what I enjoyed the most about that?
What?
You are so compulsive about as you cook, you like to clean.
Well,
you had such a hard time with that because I'm Messy Marvin in the kitchen, but you were like, you kept wanting to clean, and I had to keep saying to you, knock it off.
I have a hard time. Like before I can start anything, I have to have all the dishes clean. I have to be organized.
It's great, yeah.
Because if you're working in an actual kitchen, and that's why I have a hard time doing that. I mean, I've worked in a few kitchen scenarios with other people, but not very many. My 2 favorite cooking jobs, professional cooking jobs, where I was getting paid to cook, were both at bed and breakfast. Or even when I worked at the diner. One time I worked in a little diner for a few summers. And even then, I was the only cook in the kitchen. It was me and kind of like a dishwasher assistant.
Right.
But really, I was the only guy that was working the food. So you can set up and do everything according to whatever system that you have in your head.
Right.
And when you're a special person with a special system, it really doesn't work with other people. But,
well, and your systems work. I mean, me and Mom, we basically say, oh, it's fantastic. When you're like, well, is it okay if I make such and such? Hey, if you're cooking, go for it, babe.
But you and I have gotten better about being together in the kitchen and working.
You know what?
Because it used to be that one of us would have to be in the kitchen and the other person would have to leave.
Period.
Well, and that wasn't you. It was me. It was my fault because I couldn't. I didn't have the flexibility.
No. You're right, both of us.
Yeah.
We could not. We are too headstrong. And so if you would have told me, what would you be like in 15 years, I would have never wagered that we'd be able to be in the kitchen. And you're right. Now, one of us can be the sous chef for the other. Every now and again, we do go knock it off. But
I like cooking by myself because I've got my ears in, listening to a podcast.
Yes.
In fact, I always do the dishes, and I always volunteer to do the dishes, and I stay on top of the dishes, and I like it because I get credit for doing the dishes.
Oh my God, do you get credit? Because Mom and I do the dishes, but we don't hop to it. It's like he's pulling the plates from us before we barely finished eating, and he's cleaning. Me and Mom, we're willing to let him sit.
Yeah, but then you can listen because
that is nice.
It's a mindless activity, and then I can listen to something in my ears, and then I can learn something or be entertained by something, and then my body can just be doing this here. And I thought that I could do a podcast while I did a cookie recipe, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't talk about 2 different things. I couldn't talk about
part of it's, you notice your hands.
Recipe.
You think it's just me. You talk with your hands too.
Oh, I do. I do talk with my hands a lot. I think that's a sign of intelligence, isn't it?
Talking to yourself.
I'm trying to convince myself everything that I do is a sign of intelligence. Although I heard somebody saying, and I don't know if it's true or not, they were saying that if you are bothered by noises, if you're bothered by horns, if you're bothered by radios, if you're bothered by ringing, the more sensitive to sounds that you are, the more intelligent that you are.
Or you've had too much antibiotics, strong antibiotics.
Huh?
Weren't we watching that in Tar, the movie Tar?
No, I'm saying.
All right.
Nothing
your
to do with
cookie
antibiotics.
recipe, your cookies are about to go off.
Okay. So it's been 20 minutes. Oh, I got to get my thing ready because when these cookies come out, I'm going to put them on a doohickey right here because I want to take them off the hot pan so that they will stop cooking.
You're
Boom,
an
boom,
intelligent
boom.
person. You don't need any study to tell you that. You don't need external validation.
No, it wasn't the thing. My point was that, ooh, shoot. Okay, now these things are very soft.
Why can't you just put them on there with the parchment paper? Just pull
Because
up.
I want I don't want to leave them on the parchment paper either because
They sweat. Okay,
because,
yeah.
They'll sweat on the bottom.
Okay.
So I push them off here. They're still a little bit
Oh, they smell so
soft to touch
good.
with my finger.
Mom will be sad that she's not here when they come out warm.
But they're too hot right now. We won't be able to really enjoy these
Blasphemy.
for another 5 minutes. Because look how they bend.
Sure.
Look how very soft
You're
these
talking
are.
to somebody who loves cookie dough, raw cookie dough. I don't know what you're talking about.
But you don't want to leave them on the pan because they will get kind of wet and sweaty on the bottom.
You're right.
So
Amateur
taking them
move.
off,
Yep.
they will cool faster. And these actually look a lot darker.
Well, they spread a little bit more. I think the butter had been out a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, that's probably true because I put the butter out this morning. Usually I haven't been leaving it out that long.
Yeah.
But we'll see how these go. But it's flour and sugar and butter and toasted pecans. So really, how are they going to go? It's not a mystery.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to go fantastic. And I don't know if I emphasized it enough, but I toasted these pecans before I added it to the cookie batter. And I think that makes a big, big difference.
In the taste, sure.
Yeah, so toast your pecans before. So you'll want to do it before so they can cool down before you add it into the recipe as well. But anyway, I hope you'll give these cookies a try. If you're interested in butter pecan cookies, because this is it's a pretty perfect recipe, I think. I have no desire to adjust the sugar or to adjust the butter or even the vanilla. I'm happy putting the little bit of vanilla in there. And these are just
thank you.
super duper. But that's it. So that's the end of this here particular podcast built around cookies, and hopefully this we'll see how I do this here and put it up. But thanks a lot for supporting us on Patreon. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have some good stuff in Mexico.
We
up.
will.
But
We'll sniff
see.
it out, babe.
We'll see. I'm trying to lower my expectations.
Well, I'm not. I'm like a little kid, and I'm excited.
So that's it. We'll see you next time in the future. Buck saying bye-bye, and Camera Girl going to turn off the flip-flop, and then I guess we should make some more coffee.
Adios.
Alrighty, that is it. Click, subscribe, review, share all over the global internet sphere. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time on the Slowpoke Travel Podcast.